What do you think about separation of church and state?
Doesn't exist. It shouldn't exist. Yeah.
Shouldn't exist?
Yeah.
So you should have church in the state.
Well, first, where in the Constitution does it say that? We
The
can't
First
have
Amendment.
Where?
It's about the religion, right? So there's no establishment of religion. There's no establishment.
It doesn't say that.
Yes, it
It
does.
says Congress shall make no law establishing religion
Yeah.
or prohibiting the exercise thereof. Where does it say church and state?
Religion.
Well, hold on. It says that Congress shall make no official religion or prohibiting the exercise thereof. Where does it say that the church can't get involved in the state?
It could be involved, but it can't be the religion established.
Hold on. We're talking about two different things then,
Yeah,
right?
no, see, like, because what you're saying is that, oh, you can be a Christian and be in the government. And that's true. That's how it works right now. You can be a Christian and be in the government, right? But you cannot establish Christianity as the basis of...
Well, no, that's not what I'm arguing. I'm arguing that Christians should be in the government and the church should be actively involved. Where do we get that phrase, separation of church and state, from?
the First Amendment.
No, we don't. No, it's Thomas Jefferson writing to the Danbury Baptist Convention in Massachusetts, assuring them that the church would not come after the state. So let me ask you a question. Let's pretend that church and state is the law of the land, right? That the Warren Court and the Burger Court argued in the 1950s and 1960s. Then why on earth did we put up with the government going around and shutting down churches during the pandemic? I thought we need separation of church and state. Why is it that the government can go and shut down churches?
Okay, so
Aren't they supposed to be separate?
I actually played for a church. I played drum set, right? So I would go to church, and they're not shutting down churches because of COVID. They're saying that it's unsafe to be in public, in person.
But they shouldn't have the right to do it because I thought they're supposed to be separate, right?
I mean, for general safety. I mean, if you want people dying, then
Oh, so you could shut them down for safety. So it's not separate. It's like we can come in for whatever reason we deem necessary to restrict your religion?
It's not restricting. You can practice from on camera. We played through live streaming online.
Yeah.
This
So
is being
watching
live streamed
church
right
on a
now,
live
right?
stream is like watching a fireplace on TV. You could see everything with no warmth.
Okay, but if God is real all the time and you can't go to church because of a disease going around.
What does it say in the Bible about do not forsake the gathering of believers, where two or more are gathered in my name?
Okay, so what does it say about conception? When
What?
does it begin?
Huh?
Conception, or when does life begin?
At conception, of course. Yeah.
I thought it said at first breath.
No, it actually doesn't say that. So,
What's the verse?
well, hold on. First of all, it says, I knew you before you were in the womb.
Yeah.
And what you are doing is paraphrasing what you consider to be ex nihilo, out of nothing, made in the image of God. The breath of God was actually where life begins. So the question would be, was John the Baptist a baby when he leapt in Elizabeth's womb?
Was he?
Are you a Christian?
Me?
Yeah.
Am I?
You play drums at a church, so I hope you're a Christian.
Used to. But you're missing the point. That's what it sounds like.
No, I'm actually not missing
I mean,
the
I
point.
asked you the verse that says that it begins at conception.
Right, so I knew you before you were in the womb is one of many verses of which it reinforces that you should protect life in the womb.
But what you're doing is interpreting, right? So I want you to tell me where
No,
it says
I'm
that
reading.
life begins at. How are you reading? There's no book.
There's no book? I've memorized scripture. You should try it.
So you're reading it in your brain right now?
Well, no, in Jeremiah it says very clearly, I knew you before you were in the womb.
Yeah. So when it says in the Bible that conception begins at first breath,
No, it doesn't say that. It doesn't.
then what does it say?
You're misquoting it very clearly. Psalm 139, 13 through 16, for you formed my inward parts, it says. You wove me in my mother's womb, it says. I will give thanks to you, for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. Fearfully, wonderfully made, and my inward works. That sounds like a baby in the womb, doesn't it?
It truly boggles my mind. In a society that places so much value on higher education, many college students seem to be far from genuinely educated. Despite the time, money, and efforts invested in attending colleges and universities, there is a notable disconnect between the education that they are receiving and the knowledge or insight they actually possess. And this is sad, ladies and gentlemen. Because instead of engaging in deep, thoughtful conversations or contributing with well-informed opinions, many students struggle to articulate meaning. They struggle to articulate meaningful thoughts or provide any substantial arguments. Can you imagine this? It's as if they've gone through years of schooling without truly grasping the core principles that should be central to their education. And this is crazy. This is crazy.
Yeah, well, a fetus in the womb.
A fetus in the womb?
Yeah.
What species is that fetus?
A fetus? Species.
What species is that fetus?
Human?
So it would be a human life?
Yeah, would be eventually.
Oh, but when does it become a human life then?
When it's born, when it breathes.
Oh, really? So that a 26-week-old preemie baby that is saved because of a cesarean section isn't a baby until it comes out of the womb?
I mean, if it's born, it's born.
So you believe that we should be able to terminate a pregnancy up until the moment of birth?
Did I say that?
I'm asking.
No.
Okay, so then what restriction on abortion would you give?
Well, if the woman who is giving birth is going to die,
Which
then-
never happens.
which never happens.
That's right.
So
That's
the
right. It is a
10-year-old in
mythology
Ohio,
that women will
a
die if they have a
mythology
baby. That's
that
right.
they-
You could talk to entire communities of
happens all the
OBs.
time.
You know why? Because if cesarean option is entertained, then you could save both the mother and the baby. Instead, the abortion industry lies to the mother, and they say that you must terminate the baby to save the mother's life.
So
You
what
could talk
about
to hundreds of Christian OBs and non-Christian OBs, and they will tell you that is a mythology of the abortion industry.
You know what? That's funny.
No, it's actually
the
not
way,
funny.
No. I'm saying the way you represent facts, like willingly and knowingly.
I'm sorry?
The way you you knowingly represent facts. You say, oh, okay, abortion. Oh, it's terrible because you can't possibly save the baby and you can't possibly save the mother at the same time. No, it happens. The 10-year-old in Ohio, right?
Yes, a cesarean section could have saved the baby's life and the mother's life. Do you know what a cesarean section is?
Do you?
Yes, my wife had one.
Oh, okay. That's good for you. I'm saying when the baby, right?
So do you know what a cesarean section is or no?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, so I would, here's a little word to the wise. Let's quit while you're ahead. A cesarean section is a medical intervention that saves tens of thousands of lives every single year of a small slit done at the top of a woman's
C-section.
pelvis. Yeah, cesarean section. That's a C-section abbreviated, all right?
Wow.
So maybe that's where we get the term C-section from. So guess what? If every woman that's lied to by Planned Parenthood was given a C-section instead of an abortion, then all of a sudden abortion would not be necessary to save their life.
Every single one of them.
If you talk to hundreds of OBs across the country, they will say medical necessary abortion is a lie.
So when
Period.
you're 10 years
End
old,
of story.
right? And you're pregnant, right? You're 10 years old and pregnant, okay? So you really can't give birth through your womb. You can't give
So
birth to
you
that.
do a C-section.
How?
You cut
See,
them
what-
open and you lift the baby up and everyone lives.
How does the baby survive?
Hopefully through a work of God and also
Hopefully.
medical technology that is the most common surgery in America. So I'll kind of close
Most
with
common
this and then we'll get to
surgery.
the next question because we're running low on time. When does life begin?
At first breath.
At first breath. That moral standard of first breath would therefore believe that you could have abortion up until the moment of birth. Life begins at conception. I'm going to say this as nicely as I possibly can. You're a drummer at a church. You should probably reconsider that because you are advocating for the most horrific and brutal eugenic, non-Christian abortion policies that I could possibly imagine. I hope you prayerfully reconsider and repent. Thank you for being here tonight.
What's particularly frustrating is that, in theory, colleges should be a place where young adults are exposed to a wide range of ideas, perspectives, and critical thinking skills. It should challenge them to question assumptions, engage with complex issues, and develop the tools they need to think deeply and analytically about the world, right? But however, instead of cultivating that kind of intellectual growth, ladies and gentlemen, many students, they are being taught to accept surface level information and trendy ideologies. Can you imagine? They are being taught to accept trendy ideologies without fully understanding or critically evaluating the concepts behind them. Because their education nowadays often feels more like a series of rehearsed responses and ideas they have been taught to adopt. Literally, when you hear them speak, literally, It's as if it's a rehearsed series of ideas coming from a script or something. Can you imagine?
Hello.
Hi.
Mr. Kirk. I am welcoming Booze as saying I am a Marxist. I'm very left-leaning, but I'm here to find some common ground with you. Your critiques of the monopolistic tendencies of multinational corporations align very closely with my beliefs as viewing the world through a class lens as being the major axis of inequality in this country.
Yep.
My question is, as a member, a leader of a conservative organization that really condemns large government, how do you address this ever-growing power and these monopolistic tendencies without using the federal government and big government? I just would love
That's
to know
a
how you
good-spirited
propose
question. You have read your Marx. Good for you, because some people say they're Marxists and they haven't. So look, I think the Marxists are wrong on a lot. We could talk about that in a second. But the Marxists, their fascination with class is not wrong. And there is a place where class warfare is legitimate and ugly and cruel, and that powerful people are trying to stomp on people that don't have as much as they have. Do I think it's as plain and simple as Marx and Engels put out? No, obviously, that's not my position. But I do think that a bipartisan diagnosis of kind of class issues is something that's very interesting. I'd be curious to get your thoughts as a Marxist of why we talk about race all the time, because that will tell me what kind of Marxist you are, but not right now. So to answer your question, the answer needs to be to try to pursue market-based solutions. Not be afraid to use the government to break up big monopolies like Google. Not be afraid to use antitrust authority. However, understand that sometimes more regulation can actually be a boon and a gift to those mega corporations. For example, when Facebook goes and they says, hey, we want more regulation for data privacy. No, they don't. They want regulation that only they can afford, so the next social media company like Rumble is not able to pay the same that they're able to pay for that sort of data hosting, lawyer fees, and all that sort of stuff. So look, I think we can both agree, though, crony capitalism or cronyism is awful and wrong, and that entrepreneurial, bottom-up focused solutions is a beautiful thing. Where we will disagree, though, is that if you are a Marxist, and you seem too sweet to be a Marxist, so I'll put that aside, but do you believe by definition that the entrepreneurial activity will result in exploitation and will result in the concentration of one person benefiting from the other? This is where I disagree. I think a portion of American economic activity, yes, is big companies exploiting or lying to people. But the vast majority of economic activity happening in America is beautiful. It's voluntary exchange of both parties benefiting. It's the local small business serving a meal to somebody in Santa Barbara. It's a local hotel that is able to have somebody with a great experience. It's somebody that starts a taxi cab company to be able to provide for their family. So I think that we bash markets way too over generally, and I would love your thoughts on that. Do you agree that most economic activity in America is probably done voluntarily and is actually beneficial?
Not anymore. I think because so much industry has gone overseas with certain trade agreements,
hey, you're speaking my language.
It's usually like very large corporations that dominate employment in America. So I don't think small businesses are doing very well, especially after the pandemic.
No, that's true. I don't think they're doing well, but I think still the volume of economic activity is largely not rooted in exploitation right now in America. What do you think about that?
I agree to disagree.
Okay, got it. So think about that, because I do think that exploitation happens, but largely I think that there still is this amazing foundation of goodness in our markets, of most people that are not trying to game somebody but instead offer a service, and most people that are willing to trade their value, their time for that other service. And I don't want to lose that. And the Marxists, in its most pure sense, at the eradication of private property, we would lose that. So let me just ask, can we agree on one thing as we close this question out? Break up Google, yes?
Definitely.
All right, we got an agreement. Thanks for being here.
By publicly acknowledging and living out our faith, we show the world that we are committed to something greater than personal success or self-interest. Yes, we demonstrate that our lives are guided by values that are transcend worldly concerns. This acknowledgement, ladies and gentlemen, also brings us into alignment with the Creator's purpose for our lives. which is love, to serve, to uplift others, salvation for humanity. The teachings of Jesus emphasize the importance of living a life of humility, kindness, and selflessness. Ladies and gentlemen, in a society, individuals may become more consumed by their own feelings, whether anger, fear, or evil desires, rather than seeking clarity and wisdom that only logic and truth can provide. To sum up, the preaching of the gospel of Jesus Christ is an immensely positive and impactful act. It brings about personal transformation, spreads love, justice, hope, and truth. It aligns with God's commands, ladies and gentlemen. It offers eternal meaning, fills those who hear it with deep joy. Ultimately, it's the most precious gift humanity can receive, creating lasting change in both individuals and communities, reflecting God's heart and His purpose for the world, ladies and gentlemen. So, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to click on the next one. Don't forget to like, to comment, and to subscribe. I'll see you again next time. It's bye-bye for now.